Welcome back to Whiteout Weekly, episode 2. I am Matt Martolucci here with my co-host Dave, the Croatian Baron. And Dave, we got some big news right before the eve of Penn State kickoff, one of the most glorious days of the year. But we got some big news in terms of the depth chart, position battles, and who we're going to see playing on Thursday against the Purdue Boilermakers.
Yeah, big news in fact on a short game week here. We got Thursday, obviously coming up real quick here. Franklin met with the press after practice today and did drop a couple keynotes in there on some position battles that we've been monitoring over the course of the summer through the spring. So it looks like Tyler Elsdon, sophomore linebacker, has won, at least for now, the middle linebacker position, beating out redshirt freshman Kobe King. Did hint that both Elsdon and Kobe King are going to play a lot of football this year. So although Elsdon edged him out there, expect to see Kobe King a lot. Little more subtle role, but the place kicker role, which was occupied along with the punter role last year with Jordan Stout, who's off to the NFL.
One of the goats, one of the Penn State goats from
Mr.
last season.
Literally Mr. Do It All.
Yeah,
was
unbelievable.
So that role now resides with Jake Pinniger, who, funny enough, was the starter for 2 years prior to Stout coming in. But he beat out freshman Sandor Sahadak, number 2, in some sites number 1 overall kicker. So just something to watch there. Safety position, he didn't really give any hints to or drop who he thinks, may start there aside Yair Brown. But the big news of the day here, Luch, is Drew Aller is starting off week 1 as the number 2 quarterback. So
that's huge.
This one,
that's huge.
I don't know about you. It caught me by surprise when I saw that scroll across the timeline. I think we all just kind of assume Christian Veilleux would be the number 2 guy, especially with his in-game action. But this is huge news. And I know a lot of folks say don't read into the tea leaves here.
Give me the cup. Oh, pity.
But this says a lot about how far he's come since he got to campus.
For sure.
And he's going to be taking not only the number 2 quarterback reps in practice, but every game, or at least for this game, he's going to be prepping, ready to be going and taking all those mental reps. And if Clifford goes out, takes a sideward slide, Drew Aller's in the ball game. And that's pretty scary and exciting at the same time.
No, yeah. I mean, I think it's exciting because going back to what we were talking about last episode, if Clifford is not playing well, you're not going to VU. You're going to Aller now. You know what I mean? Which is what we were talking about, that those cojones that Franklin has to grow. Put in Drew Aller, see what we got. And also with that, a little side note on that, Bo Pribula is probably going to redshirt, I'm guessing, with Drew Aller being the number 2.
He did say it's going to be fluid week to week. Again, take that as you want. I think it's pretty clear, and you hear some of the comments from the players about how Drew Aller has really come along. But says it's fluid, but I think this is a huge step. A lot of us kind of thought Aller might just be in the lab for the year, but he's next in line, ready to go.
Real deal. 3-star to the number 1 quarterback or recruiter quarterback in the nation. That's pretty incredible. So going on with this roster theme, we are each going to give our picks for our who we're most excited for out of the returning starters coming into the 2022 season. So Dave, why don't you do the honors with who you're most excited for on offense this year for the Nittany Lions?
So for returning starter, I think for me, I look at the wideout position, and I think this year they're extremely deep. You hear a lot of comments from the coaching staff, from both Franklin, Taylor Stubblefield, but I think all eyes are going to be on Parker Washington this year and filling those shoes with Jahan Dotson. And you got the transfer portal get with Mitchell Tinsley, but I'm going to be looking at Keandre Lambert-Smith this year.
Love that.
Had the number changed. He's numero uno now. So changing his number.
Even sicker.
Came a long way last year. Had about 33 receptions. struggled early on in his Penn State career with some drops and just said he wasn't quite there mentally, but took a nice leap last year. Had a couple touchdown catches, including that electric screen pass
Nova,
against
yeah.
Villanova. But I'm looking at
Always
him
remember that.
to take another leap this year. And with all the attention that Tinsley and Parker are going to get, I think you're going to find him open a good bit, and looking forward to, taking advantage.
Yeah, so looking at, you mentioned Dotson leaving, a huge void in targets. So I was looking at the numbers. He had 137 targets out of Penn State's 412 total. So that's over 33% target share. So 1/3 of those targets are now vacated. And a lot of people, especially like fantasy guys, when you talk about fantasy football, like with Devonta Adams leaving, they're like, oh, huge amount of target share is going to go open. Like that means Alan Lazard is going to go off. It's like, no, that doesn't mean he's going to take 1/3 of the targets just automatically. It's going to get spread out a little bit more. So yeah, I love that. Keandre Lambert-Smith showed signs of progression last year, and he's going to eat into those targets. I don't think it's just going to be Parker Washington all of a sudden getting 33% of the targets. I think it's going to be much more spread out, which is what the offense, quite frankly, needs under Sean Clifford, where he's not just keying in on Dotson every single passing attempt.
Absolutely. So
going on that same exact theme, I'm going to go with a unit that's kind of been, I won't say disappointing. That's not the right word at all, but underutilized, I would say, over the past couple of years, the tight end room. We saw Tyler Warren, obviously, in those Wildcat formations, getting some rushing touchdowns, which was fun. But looking at Brenton Strange and Theo Johnson, they were 4th and 5th in terms of targets last year. Strange brought in 20 receptions for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. Theo with 18 catches for 212 and a touchdown. So I think with Washington, his ability to get downfield and catch contested balls, Mitchell Tinsley's speed on the outside, and Keandre Lambert-Smith speed in the slot, I think a lot of opportunity is open for these two tight ends to break out finally this season, underneath and in the seam, because they're going to get matched up a lot of the times against linebackers if you look at it, because we're going to be running 3 wide. So they're going to have cornerbacks on all of them. Either a safety is going to have to come up and guard the tight end, or you're going to leave one of those speedsters with no help over the top, which is not a good look. So I'm looking for that tight end room, in particular, Brenton Strange and Theo Johnson, the two juniors, to step up this year in a huge, huge way.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to come down to really just Yurcich plugging them into the offense. Like you said, they were really underutilized last year. No knock to Brenton Strange, but Theo Johnson is an absolute physical specimen and will likely be playing on Sundays in some capacity at some point. But really just getting them more involved in the offense. I know there's a lot of things that factor into that O-line play, other guys getting open, but really looking forward to seeing that group take a big leap this year.
Yeah, speaking of Theo, he had 18 catches on 27 targets. So that's a 66.7 reception percentage. So throwing the ball, he's going to catch it. And I think he's definitely going to be utilized a lot more there. So keeping with the returning starters, who are you most looking forward to returning on the defensive side of the ball?
I think for me on defense, I'm looking at, and what most are saying, and understandably so, are saying is the weak spot of this, what should be another really strong defensive unit, but at the linebacker role. So we mentioned Tyler Elsdon getting the nod at middle linebacker. You got Jonathan Sutherland coming down from the secondary to play, in the box there. But I think the one mainstay there who I anticipate having a really, really big year this year is Curtis Jacobs. So
yes, love that.
They're moving him based on his role now is more in the box play, where in the past he's kind of been a hybrid, mainly focusing in coverage, but not exactly anticipating a Micah Parsons type year out of him, although he does have an incredible amount of talent, former 5-star prospect, but really seeing him becoming the leader of that linebacking core who a lot of folks are doubting right now. And the quote that I really liked from Manny Diaz was, "We didn't recruit you guys to be question marks. We recruited you to be impact players." So for him, this is his year really to step up and, make an imprint on linebacker U, because that's what Penn State is. So looking for a lot out of him starting here on Thursday.
Yeah, and even going back to last year, we credited him, I think, every other game on his pass coverage ability and his ability to rush the passer at the same time. So he's definitely a versatile linebacker, and I think whatever role they give him, he has the ability and the athleticism to excel wherever he's put in the field. So for me, I'm going to go with a guy that was injured in probably my least favorite Penn State game in the past decade against Iowa, PJ Mustipher. Iowa fans booed him when he literally blew out his knee. Before that, he was a stalwart member of that defensive line. Like, he was all over the place, tackles for losses, was probably our best run defender on the interior. And then after that injury, stuff kind of went sideways with the run with our run defense, despite our linebacking core. So with him back, I'm so interested to see how he's recovered from the injury and his impact on the field, because I know for a fact that he is coming out of a fucking cannon this season. I know for a fact that he's going to be out of control. So I can see him either just completely stuffing the run and dominating, as well as becoming, I wouldn't say a premier pass rusher, but I can see him racking up a couple sacks here and there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Not to say that folks might be glossing over it, but I can't say enough how important him coming back is going to be for that defensive unit, and especially for that defensive line. You're talking about a guy who was third team all Big Ten with 5 games and a quarter played. So that just tells you how important he is, not just to this team, but also his skill level. So him coming back is huge. I think they announced at the beginning of August, they said he's ready to go. He passed the quote unquote Penn State conditioning test, which is notably a tough test, but he passed it, and he's ready to roll on Thursday. So definitely looking forward to getting out there and getting after it.
And yeah, with kind of an unproven defensive line this year, I think he's going to be the standout and the guy that you got to look towards to make plays when it matters most.
Without a doubt.
So moving on from the returning starters, we're going to hop into who are most excited for out of the newcomers, or like grad transfers or freshmen. So Dave, who are you most excited for as a freshman or newcomer on offense?
So on the offensive side of the ball, so I know I already mentioned Keandre Lambert-Smith, looking for him to have a big year here, or take another leap rather, and continue on that same trend and hitting on again how deep the team really feels this wide receiver room is. They're saying they'd love to go 5, maybe even 6 deep. So I think someone that I look to kind of jump into that fold is Harrison Wallace, or Trey Wallace for Harrison Wallace III. We posted some clips before, I think, in our wide receiver breakdown of his high school dunking highlights. So he's got freaky athleticism. Didn't play much at all. I think he only had a couple snaps last year, but gathering a lot of buzz coming through spring ball and fall camp. Had a nice touchdown catch in the blue-white game. So, again, he's got that go up and get it mentality and ability. So looking forward to him slipping through the cracks here and making an impact early on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, just look at those dunk highlights, like jump ball machine. Throw it up, he's going to get it every single time. So for me, going back to the announcements of kind of who we're going to see playing against Purdue this Thursday, Richard Scarcella, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, said that running back coach Juwan Sider said freshmen Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are going to see significant playing time in the opener at Purdue. So those are my 2 picks. Singleton, the number 1 running back in this recruiting class, Gatorade, National Gatorade Player of the Year. He ran for over 2,000 yards and 44 touchdowns in his senior season. And this is just a ridiculous stat line. In his career in high school, he ran for over 6,300 yards and 116 total touchdowns, which is absurd. So we got
a lot
him.
of those probably untouched too.
Yeah, we got him. I mean, I'm not going to put him in Saquon territory just yet, but his running style does remind me a lot of Saquon. And then you counteract him with the thunder aspect in Katron Allen, who's just an absolute bowling ball of a human being. 5'11", 220-pound bruiser of a running back. 4-star recruit out of IMG. His senior year, he rushed for over 1,400 yards and 27 touchdowns. So I can see them being a absolutely lethal 1-2 tandem. And I'm so excited to see them playing in the opener tomorrow night. Like, I can't fucking wait to see them.
Katron Allen, funny side note, nicknamed Fat Man. So that's also an electric running back to have.
That's
but
dope nickname.
Singleton, those guys, again, just another freshman pairing that's gotten a lot of buzz. And I know we said not Saquon territory yet, but getting that type of buzz. And just like we're talking about Drew Aller right on Clifford's heels, they're right on Kevon Lee's heels. So
as a true freshman,
drops the rock a couple times, God forbid, not wishing that upon anyone, want him to have a solid season here. But those guys are breathing down and maybe even right next to Kevon Lee. So going to get a lot of touches here Thursday night.
Yeah, I think we'll see a stable backfield for weeks 1 through 4. And then once we reach the gauntlet month of October, I think Singleton and Allen are going to kind of separate themselves from the rest of the pack and become the 1-2 tandem in the backfield. One last name I want to mention, the Western Kentucky transfer wide receiver Mitch Tinsley. Going back to Dotson, we're giving up over 1/3 of the targets from last year. He's obviously going to get some of his targets, and I think this was a huge get for Penn State that people are only going to recognize a couple weeks into the season. With Western Kentucky, he was 13 of 26 on contested catches. So you can throw it up to him, and he's going to get it. Catch radius out of this world, which is what Clifford needs, honestly, to succeed. You can throw him the ball underneath. He can create separation in the open field. He just is an overall terrific wide receiver and just helps his overall game. I think is going to help Clifford's accuracy numbers, just everything. So I just wanted to put him in there as well. I know I had 3 there, which was a little ridiculous, but
can never have enough.
So lastly, for the newcomers, freshmen, your defense. Who are you most excited for in defense?
So for me, from a class standpoint, not a freshman, but new to the program, Chop Robinson. So electric name for a defensive end.
Yeah, that's got to be considered a top 10 all-time Penn State.
Yeah, absolutely. Former 5-star prospect, was actually heavily recruited by Penn State, ended up going to Maryland for his freshman season, played a lot of stand-up linebacker in a 3-4 system last year, but looking like he's going to be playing more hand in the dirt defensive end role. They might shift him around that defensive line. Freaky athleticism. Got him at 6'3", 242. And although he may not start here Thursday night, expect him to get starter-like reps right out the gate and throughout the rest of the season. He's going to play a lot for this team this year. And I think from a transfer standpoint, going to have an AK-type impact on this defense. He's that
wow.
And the last thing to note, too, is with him just being a sophomore, we got him for at least 2-3 seasons here, which is amazing news for this Penn State defense.
And you think he's going to that big of an impact right away.
He's that good. Yes.
Let's go chop, baby.
Go chop.
Chop it up. Any other on the defense?
So sticking to that defensive line front, another name that's gotten a lot of buzz, really going all the way back to winter workouts and how strong this dude is. But Zane Durant, for me, true freshman at Lake Nono, Florida. A little bit undersized. I think they got him at 6'1", but another body that they could shift around in a couple different positions, mainly a D tackle, but could play some edge rush as well. Crush winter workouts. The coaches usually tweet out, winter workout warrior. He was up there consistently, getting a lot of great feedback from his teammates. I think he's another true freshman here that could make a huge impact here in year one.
Interesting number for a defensive lineman, number 28.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So for me, I'm going to go with some Philly roots here. Linebacker Abdul Carter.
Mm-hmm.
He went to LaSalle College High School, who I actually played against a lot in high school. I always thought that was one of the funnier high schools names. LaSalle College, the high school. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't make sense to me. That being said, they did kick our ass in pretty much every sport possible. My sophomore and junior year, they were state champions in football, hockey, and lacrosse. So 2 years straight.
They're a powerhouse.
Out of control program. Their head coach, John Steinmetz, who's been there since 2015, but has a lot of coaching experience, said of Carter, he's one of the most athletic players I have the chance to work with. Incredible closing speed, very high football IQ, understands the game very well. As a 4-year starter for us, he could make plays from sideline to sideline, rush the passer, or drop back and cover the middle of the field. So that's high praise from a high program. He's also rocking number 11, which is a historic number in Penn State history. LeVar Arrington, Brandon Bell, Micah Parsons, Navarre Bowman, and our boy Matt McGloin have all legends to rock.
Don't leave him out.
All legends to rock number 11. So not trying to put too much pressure on this kid, but sounds like an all-around terrific linebacker. And he could be that next number 11 that could be a generational talent at Penn State at linebacker.
For sure.
And then lastly, I'm going to put in a guy actually battling for the other safety spot aside Jair Brown, Zaki Wheatley, redshirt freshman, who was the takeaway king for spring and fall camps this year. So I'm looking at him to maybe possibly split time with I think Keaton Ellis is the other guy battling for that spot.
Yeah.
So they'll probably split time maybe to begin the year, but I definitely see Zaki Wheatley, his talent, possibly taking over that starting spot full time.
Yeah, very, very lengthy guy. Takeaway, it just has that knack for the ball. You get it from the title, right? Takeaway king. I know it's just spring ball and fall camp going against your own guys, but there's a lot of talented guys on that at the skill positions on that Penn State offense. So it's not like the light environment in practice. So really looking forward to see his early game action here and seeing if that holds true, going after the ball. Manny Diaz, obviously, inventor of the turnover chain. So going to try to bring not necessarily the chain, but that mentality here to the defense and looking to wreak havoc and create some turnovers. So hopefully, he can do that for this team when the games count.
And then him next to Jair Brown, that ball hawk, look out.
Who had 6 interceptions himself last year. So
look out if they're a tandem back there. All right. So let's move on. It is Penn State kickoff eve. Weird on a Wednesday. Totally random. But Penn State will be playing Purdue at Purdue. I believe you said it was they're doing a blackout game to start the season. So we will be entering a hostile environment. However, favored 3.5-point favorites. I liked it a lot better at 3. I think it got pushed to 3.5, possibly over the weekend. The over under is 53.5, which I thought was a little high, but then I kind of looked into it and it seems about right. But I think the talk of this game is going to be the battle of the 6-year quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Sean Clifford versus Aiden O'Connell, who was surprisingly 9th in yards per game, passing yards per game in the FBS last year. 9th, the Purdue quarterback in all of college football. That stat blew me away.
Yeah, for sure.
However, he is missing the top 3 receivers that he targeted last year. So a slight downgrade there. Their defense gave up 22.4 points per game last year, but they lost their defensive captain, George Karlaftis, who is wreaking havoc in Kansas City, actually doing really well there. Their number 1 tackler, linebacker Jalen Alexander, and their number 2 tackler, safety Marvin Grant. So their defense might slide a little bit here, losing those guys. But other than that, it's going to be I think this is going to be a tougher matchup than expected. I think last episode I said I can see them covering in the first half and then us kind of controlling the game in the second half after we kind of adjust to the environment and being on the road in that atmosphere.
Mhm. Yeah, for me, obviously tough environment. It's a conference opener, and I know Franklin and new AD Pat Kraft have hit on it, where they're pissed off that we're having to open up Big Ten play on the road every single year, and especially here. I want to say I think it's been 12 out of the last 13 years we've opened up Big Ten play on the road.
Holy shit!
Which is pretty unfortunate from a scheduling circumstance, but nothing really you could do about it here. For me, I love the 3.5 line. Obviously non-biased, right? But I think we come out and
Really
really
3.5 better than 3.
Aiden O'Connell, I still love it. I think they're
Okay.
a touchdown. They win this by a touchdown at least. But Aiden O'Connell, like you said, 6-year quarterback, former walk-on here in the program, 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns last year. Just like we were talking about with Dotson, right? Losing a lot of targets with David Bell off the NFL, and what was thought to be their top target this year, Milton Wright, who's ineligible. So a lot of targets to go around for some unproven guys, which could be blood in the water for a thirsty secondary that's looking to create some turnovers. So looking forward to see how that plays out. And then also, just like us, they didn't run the ball very well at all last year. Average about 3 yards per carry. They do have a nice talent at center. He's your traditional Big Ten hog molly name, Gus Hartwig.
Yep.
So,
it's going to be a mid first round pick next year.
So getting some preseason recognition there, but just like us, and not saying we got it all figured out either. But when you struggle to run the ball, you become a little bit more predictable.
Yep.
So I think that bodes well for this defense. And I do say what you want about Clifford, but he's 24 years old going in this road environment. He should have, and he has seen and done it all by now. Whether he's effective is another question. But I think from a composure standpoint, you have to like that factor, open it up on the road here, like you said, in a tough environment, blackout atmosphere, which has gone well for this team in the past. Speaking of Purdue, but I do really like our chances here, and I actually love this line, and I'm all over it.
So you're going to take a 3.5?
Absolutely.
I might have to follow you, but I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot better at 3. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why. Just felt a lot safer. But yeah, such a good point or good factor that you point out. Sean Clifford's 24 years old. He's playing against a lot of
6 years older than Drew.
He's playing against like a lot of like 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Like that's pretty absurd. So yeah, that's a great point. Like he's a man playing against, some boys out there.
Yeah.
So if he's not mentally prepared enough after playing for 6 seasons in Big Ten and like against environments like Ohio State and Michigan and like those types, he better be ready to go against the freaking Boilermaker Blackout. Like, come on.
For sure.
That's just got to be, he's got to be able to do that in his sleep at this point.
Just our 2 cents.
Yeah. Non-biased, of course. So looking more in depth in the game at the players, I'm going to go with our we're going to do our key matchups. I'm going to start at my key matchup for this game is going to be Purdue's 4th leading receiver from last year. Their top guy back from last year, tight end Payne Durham Jr. With a name like Payne, you can only imagine what he might do to us. He's 6'5", 255, absolute specimen. Last year, it came down with 45 catches for 467 yards and 6 touchdowns. So like we said, their top wideouts are kind of out, but they are really, really good at bringing in new talent and developing NFL talent very quickly. So I think a lot of the cornerbacks are going to be matched up against those wide receivers. We're going to have a 2 deep safety look, which means I think Jonathan Sutherland, the converted safety and the linebacker, kind of playing that bomber spot. I think he's going to draw the assignment of Durham. But it's a 6'5", 255 tight end against a 5'11" safety linebacker, which could potentially be a problem. That being said, if that doesn't work, if he's crushing us throughout the first half, I can easily see them putting J.U. Brown, just matching up in a seam matchup over him in whatever zone we're playing, or just straight up man-to-man. But offensively, I was astonished that Aiden O'Connell was 9th in all of college football in passing yards. So that was what I was more focused on. Looking at Payne Durham, he's the most secure target that he has basically on the roster right now. I think he's most comfortable throwing to him, most comfortable with his route and timing. So I think he's a guy to watch out for, and I think we need to seriously game plan around him defensively.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Penn State does seem, I guess, if you're looking for a bright spot there, we do tend to bode pretty well against tight ends. Can't, off the top of my head, remember the last time we truly got burned, by a top tight end talent.
Maybe, yeah.
I might be able to get fact checked on that one, but
I'm
from
thinking
my
of
recollection,
I'm thinking of the Eagles. Eagles get burned by tight ends every freaking year.
But we do tend to game plan well there, but definitely, something to look out for, especially with, like we mentioned, inexperienced linebacker play, being able to pick that up. Some new faces in the secondary, or at least full-time faces. So definitely something to watch out for there.
And even Curtis Jacobs, you mentioned him. Most excited to watch him. I know you mentioned he might be in a new role this year, but he might, depending how things go in this game, he might have to fall back into that pass coverage role and kind of play kind of like a exchange zone, if you will, against Durham, because I think he could be a serious problem. So who is your key matchup for the Thursday night bout?
So hinted at it earlier, and I know that both of us have, right, where you mentioned a couple, or at least one big piece to this unit, but I love this defensive line this year. It's probably the group that I'm highest on, and that's, going up against a running back room, that's got 2 exciting new true freshmen. But when you're looking at this defensive line, you got some new faces, but I think a lot of depth that they can kind of make them interchangeable. That's going to really help out the unit, and you're going to see a lot of guys getting a lot of reps. So going across the board, you got Adisa Isaac, who's coming back. Seems to be he's going to get the nod at DN. Was primed to have a big year last year before he went down with that Achilles injury, but he's back at full speed, ready to go.
Another weird defensive line number 20.
I know, right? What's these numbers? You already mentioned PJ Mustipher, which goes without saying. You don't have to say much more about that.
Let's go.
Yeah, right. You got Hakeem Beeman, who didn't play at all last year. We never really got the full scoop on why he was out, but he's an absolute beast at D tackle. I think within that spot next to Mustipher, you'll see a couple guys switching in and out. You got a Keziah Izzard who'll get some time. Devon Ellie's things like that. And then at the other DN spot, you got Nick Tarberton, who was a mainstay from last year. Had a big Outback Bowl. I think he put up 4 sacks in that game. But then you got
totally forgot. He
huge
crushed
Outback
it.
Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crushed
so
him. I totally
you got
forgot about
him.
that.
He's pretty much the most tenured, aside from Mustafa, player on that line. But again, mentioned Chop Robinson, who's going to get starter-like reps, even though he's not starting. And then 5-star DN Dennis Sutton, who is another absolute physical specimen, who's going to get a lot of playing time early here. So when you're going up against a team that can't run the ball well or didn't run the ball well last year, despite Aiden O'Connell's accolades, they're gonna get after the quarterback. In a week 1 matchup, a lot of things you're usually worried about is wrapping up and tackling. You can solve all that if you put the quarterback in the dirt, before you can even get the ball out. So I expect this unit to wreak havoc on Thursday night. I'm looking at 4+ sacks from this group.
Ooh.
Calling a hot
I
take.
wonder if we can bet. I wonder if we can bet that. A little prop.
Oh, I'm gonna look
Sure,
for
be
it.
good. Team props.
Yeah.
Dude, Dennis Sutton, 6'5", 254.
Yeah.
Absolute specimen off the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going over the roster. It seemed like an inexperienced group, but now that you laid it out for me, it's a very, very deep group.
So much
group.
Yeah.
And a lot to look forward to in the future. A lot of young guys, a lot of guys who can produce right away.
For sure.
That's a great call. Yeah. Because they've had the same running back for a couple of years now, and he hasn't really broken out. So I can see them going with a committee hot hand type thing and just got to shut them all down. I think obviously shutting down the run, most important, but then getting to O'Connell is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be airing it out, especially in that environment. They're going to want to go up big early.
Yeah.
So a lot of pressure on that secondary for sure. And those edge rushers and the defensive line to get after O'Connell, make them uncomfortable early and often.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Can't wait. One more night of sleep and we get Penn State football, baby.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
But before we sign off, we will commence with season 2 of the Big Ten Betting Bonanza. The trophy from last year, the 10-pound dumbbell.
In all our glory.
I'm looking to, hopefully this stays up. Don't fall.
She's sturdy. Yeah. She's sturdy.
I'm looking to reclaim that trophy right there because I really don't feel like shipping a 10-pound dumbbell to Baron, for being completely honest.
Neither do our UPS or FedEx workers.
Yeah. So we will be right back with the first week of the Big Ten Betting Bonanza. And we are back with possibly my favorite betting competition of all time, the Big Ten Betting Bonanza Season 2. Last year, I came out victorious over Dave Barron. By the skin of my teeth, too. I think came down to like the last couple. I think came down to the bowl picks, right?
Yeah, the bowl special.
Holy crap. So hopefully we have another eventful season just like last year. Just to go over the rules again. We're each picking 3 games. It can be a favorite against the spread, favorite or underdog. That if you hit that, you get 1 point. If you pick an underdog money line and that hits, you get plus 3 points. If you pick a money line underdog that is over a touchdown, right? Is it a touchdown or double digits? What do we say?
Touchdown, more than 7.
More than 7, you get plus 5.
Yeah.
Plus 5 points. No -1 for losses. You just get 0 for that. So let's kick it off. I think as former champion, I'll start.
Go right ahead, champ.
Let me pull up the. I should have this prepared as champion. The hold on, the Big Ten schedule just to make sure I'm getting the times right. Alrighty. I'm going with a game played on Thursday that is not Penn State. The Minnesota Golden Gophers versus the New Mexico State Aggies. Now, I had the misfortune of having to cover partial game of New Mexico State versus who they play.
Nevada?
Yeah, it was just an awful, awful game. New Mexico State, they basically run like a Army Navy type of like triple option offense, just pound the ball, no real passing attack. The over under of this is set at 53 with the spread of Minnesota minus 36. So if Minnesota's covering that game, let's say they would get 42, I honestly do not see New Mexico State getting more than 10 points in this game. So I'm taking the under 53 in Minnesota versus New Mexico State to kick off Big Ten Betting Bonanza Season 2.
Well, interesting storyline there, too. I think Jerry Kill, New Mexico State's head coach, former Minnesota head coach. So a little
fuck.
to that.
Oh, fuck.
But I think New Mexico State is just downright.
I could play to the under, though, because you might know the strengths, weaknesses.
That's
Minnesota.
True. Very true.
Keep the offense a little, but minus 36.5. That's crazy. For Minnesota, it's a nut spread.
Gotta love the week one big lines.
But yeah, I can't. I can't put my head on my pillow at night and sleep soundly betting on New Mexico State plus 36.5 because I am, for all the people out there, I am putting up 1 unit per game this season. And I'm going to track how well I do. So I'll report back every single week how many units we're both up, actually, as well as the competition. So, Dave, your first pick.
I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to stick on that Thursday slate, the game we've know and love. We're going to be talking about. I'm taking the Lions.
Let me guess.
3.5. Not much else to say there. I'm all over it.
I cut you out, but Penn State 3.5.
Yeah. Lock it up.
And I can't hate on it. I can't do it because I'm
That's
rooting
part
for
of the
my own
strategy.
squad to lose. You put me in a pickle, Mr. Baron. All right. My second pick, I'm going to go with another team I saw play in. It's so funny. It's called Week 0.
Yeah, I know.
Illinois. They absolutely beat up on Wyoming. Their running back, Chase Brown Jr., went off for 150, I forget, over 150 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. They're going up against Indiana on Friday at 8 p.m. Weird things happen on Friday. That is my motto of betting college football. Weird things happen on Friday. So I think Illinois is riding super high off that Wyoming victory. They're going to come into Indiana expecting it to be like that kind of environment, but Indiana's going to show up as a Big Ten team, run it down their throats. Indiana's -3. I think they cover handedly. So I'm taking Indiana -3 there.
Interesting pick. I like that.
The Hoosiers.
Hoosiers.
Who's their QB? Ramsey?
Nah, Mr. Tuttle.
Oh, Tuttle's their quarterback now. Fuck, I didn't even research that. Let's go, Tuttle.
Tuttle. There you go.
The other stat I want to point out there is Indiana returns 7. Let me check. 7 starters, and I think their D-line's all juniors or seniors. So very, very experienced leading defensive line, front 7. So I think they'll be able to do enough to slow down Brown. And then it comes down to just hoping Tommy DeVito doesn't go off for Illinois. I'm really questioning this pick right now, but I'm sticking to my guns. Indiana -3.
Say what you want about Tom Allen, but I don't know that he's going to have a team that's just going to lay down and die for another year. So I would expect him to come out, be competitive here in game one. Because, that locker room fights for him. So,
yeah. And Illinois, I think, is just, they're going to be resting on the druthers. Not see Indiana coming. Might be a first half play, to be honest, but I'm going to go full game -3.
All right.
Your second pick, sir.
I am going to go to tends to be a topic of conversation a lot in these apps, but I'm going to go to the Maryland Terps.
Ooh, baby.
-23.5.
Big old spread.
The mighty Buffalo Bulls. Maryland's going to have a pretty explosive offense this year, especially with Talia coming back in that wide receiver room. Week one, MAC opponent. I expect them to put up a lot of points here. Just going to be a matter of whether the defense can hold that lead, but I think they do, and I think they cover 23.5.
Over under in that game 63.
Yeah, lots of points to be had.
So yeah, if Buffalo's putting up points, they're going to keep their starters in and hopefully get that cover. I like that pick a lot. I'm going to put that on my book as well. Maryland -23.5. Okay. My final pick, and I'm really starting to despise myself with the amount that I'm mentioning this team. I picked them to win the national championship the last episode. I want to make this super quick. Primetime game, 7:30 ABC, number 5, Notre Dame at number 2, Ohio State. Seems every year people talk themselves into Notre Dame being some sort of elite program still. Ohio State is going to absolutely destroy them. I don't know if they're going to cover the 17.5, so I'm going to take Ohio State first half -9.5. So winning by 10 by halftime. I think Notre Dame's going to be absolutely shell-shocked at this Putin offense in the first half. They're not going to know what's going on. Maybe game plan in the second half, but I think the safest bet is Ohio State covering that 9.5 in the first half.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say on the Buckeyes for that.
For my third pick, this is going to be easy. I'm going to stay right in that same game. And Luch, I'm taking the full game spread. I'm taking Buckeyes -17.5.
Okay.
I think this game's over by halftime for the marquee, ABC Saturday night matchup.
So you got my pick
I don't
too?
think Notre Dame stands a goddamn chance in this game. They're getting blown the fuck out.
So you got
Stroud, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Trayvon Henderson. I think they cover 17.5 by halftime, honestly.
So you like my first half pick, huh?
I do, yeah. I'll tail that as well.
So you got the two games you got are Maryland -23.5 and Ohio State -17.5. A lot of big numbers covered there, Mr. Baron.
I'm a big line guy. I'm a sucker for the big lines in week one.
And thank God you picked Penn State because there's way too much Ohio State talk at the end of that episode. But happy Penn State football eve, everybody. We got a game tomorrow.
Go.
Thursday of all nights. Could not be more excited for season 2. Thank you all again for tuning in to us, listening to our BS and listening to us talk about Penn State football. We absolutely love it. Appreciate you guys, and we will be back next week with another episode.
Thanks, guys. Go Lions.